Welcome back, everybody, to the Aurora Show. We're going to continue on here with our archetypal series, and we're going to talk about Taurus risings. Okay, so we talked about Aries risings, the archetype there being Mars. So it's a lot about what you choose to do in life. It's wherever you decide to put your energy. Like I said, Aries is very entrepreneurial. Very like live fast, quick, powerful, to the point. But basically, the Aries risings charts, like I said, are very unique because every house is cohesive with its ruling sign. So you have the ability to kind of dive into whatever you want. But everything you do in life will be very out there, will be very obvious, will be very much in the face, right? Taurus risings are a little bit subtler, right? Taurus is an earth sign. If Aries is the ignition, the starting point, right? Like, so think about a race, right? Aries is the start, okay? It is the ignition. It's the go time. It's where you start kind of sprinting, right? It's the whistle being blown. Now, Taurus is the sustainability, right? So if we're talking about a race, like Taurus is the one who might be slower and steadier. Taurus is not racing ahead like Aries is. Taurus is not as loud and in your face as an Aries is, but they are sustainable. Okay, and Taurus being an earth sign, they are very much the builders. Okay, Taurus rules the physical world. Aries is the energy. Aries is the action, right? The seed, the life force energy. Taurus is how we take that energy and how we actually create in the physical world and how we sustain that energy. Okay, so Taurus is like the hare, okay? The tortoise and the hare story. They are the tortoise, okay? They are moving slowly. They are moving steadily. They are not racing ahead, but they may actually win the race because they're consistent, grounded, okay? Taurus is about the building of things. Taurus is about taking care of the day-to-day physical world, physical life, right? And Taurus, what we also love about Taurus is, remember that Taurus is ruling planet. So if you're a Taurus rising, your ruling archetype is actually Venus. Okay, now Venus has a shared rulership, similar to Mars, because Mars is also a co-ruler of Scorpio. So, and most of the signs have co-rulers, right? So the co-rulership of Venus is Taurus and Libra. When we get to Libra rising, Venus expresses herself very differently in Libra than she does in Taurus. Same with Mars, right? Mars is going to express himself very differently in Scorpio than in Aries. There will be similarities, okay? So a lot of Taurus risings might really vibe with Libra risings because there's a shared archetype there. There's a shared rulership, okay? But Venus and Taurus, okay, the way that this archetypal ruler comes through is this is the love of luxury. This is the love of the human experience, okay? So Venus in Taurus will have a lot to do with loving the body, okay? The body and how to use the body will very much come through with Taurus risings. Aries risings, like I said, do have that energy as well because of the Mars rulership, but it's more of like, how far can I push the body? What type of extreme adrenaline and like energy can I exert through the body? Taurus is more of like, how do we treat the body? How do we build the body, right? how do we express the body, right? So there is things with Taurus where they tend to be very comfortable with their bodies. Like they deeply and intimately know how to be in the human vessel, and they really appreciate the body. They love to stop and smell the roses. Okay. One thing about Taurus is they're not rushing. As I said, they might be very consistent. They are represented by the bull. Okay. So don't test the bull, but they do like to enjoy life and all of the pleasures, if you will, of life. So they love items. They like when a Taurus has their things, do not touch their things. Okay. Now, again, there are shadows to this, right? Just as I talked about with Aries rising. Some of the shadows here can be possessiveness. Because Venus and Taurus is very physical, right? Venus is our love language. Venus is our creative aspect. She's the inner feminine, whereas Mars is the inner masculine. So Taurus risings have more of a feminine quality to them. They're soft, they're lovers, and they really enjoy what life has to offer, right? Taurus is very much focused in terms of like Maslow's hierarchy, right? The base of Maslow's hierarchy is physical needs, okay? Food, water, shelter, sleep, right? That's kind of Taurus. They need to have their basic needs met. And if they have that met, they're very content. They're very happy. They really know how to enjoy the simple things of life. They don't necessarily need like all these crazy things to feel good. They really enjoy that simple pleasures of life, right? Touch, like any of the senses, touch, taste, smell, sight, right? Hearing. That is what they enjoy. And so this is where we get a lot of the archetypal themes here of the Venus rulership is going to be, like I said, the body, touch, sensuality, really being in tune with things like nature, intimacy in terms of like, touch and hugging and cuddling. Like these are things that really stimulate the Venus and Taurus archetype. However, they also are very good with money and business, okay? And the reason being is because Venus is about our worth, okay? She's about our worth and how we create worth and value within the world. And like I said, here with the Taurus energy, it's going to value the basic needs. They're going to love their food. They're going to love their clothing. They're going to love their people. They're going to love their possessions, the things that they have. Now, again, this can lead to possessiveness. This can lead to a little bit of, too much pleasure, right? Too much pleasure seeking, a little bit of a hedonist sometimes. It can lead to overconsumption. It can lead to kind of gluttony in many ways. But they are very good with money because money creates security and resources, something Taurus is, very focused on. And creating physical things, right? And so you're going to see with the examples that I give of Taurus risings want to create something physically sustainable, or they're very focused. Like, let's say they have, of course you have to take into account the rest of the chart, but let's say that they also are very interested in kind of making discoveries, breakthroughs, innovations, and creativity that has to do with something physical. Okay. And so when we look at a Taurus rising chart, again, I would look at Placidus and whole sign, just disclaimer, look at it all, see what resonates for you, right? But archetypally speaking, the Taurus rising is going to have Taurus ruling your first house. So again, first house is the auric field. It's the aura. It's the vibe. It's people's first impression of you. It is the energy that you are putting off consciously into the world, right? And so people are going to get this kind of very strong, stable, very kind of grounded energy from a Taurus rising. Okay. What I do love about Tauruses as well, Taurus risings or major Taurus placements, is they're not easily shakeable. Okay. Like Taurus risings hate change. I will say that. They do not like change. They don't do very well with loss or sudden change or big changes. And that is because of their desire for rootedness, their desire for stability, their desire for consistency. And of course, sudden change, loss, it disrupts that. Again, like I said, there can be that possessiveness sometimes as well. It can be a greed or an attachment. And so they do not like loss of any kind. It's very disruptive to them. But that is going to be part of evolutionizing the archetype here with Taurus, okay? They have to realize that it's not about what they have and what they own. That is not your self-worth. And I think that if we can evolutionize this particular archetypal blueprint, Taurus is one with nature, okay? Nature is cyclical. Nature moves in rhythms and cycles and flows, okay? Nature is in a constant process of death and rebirth. Nature is in a constant process of loss. We just look at Mother Nature as a whole, right? We also know that Mother Nature can be destructive when necessary, right? And that is, you have to deal with loss, right? We go through the seasons, right? Plants, trees, crops, they die. And then they regrow again. And then there's a harvest season and there's a winter season. And you have to put the effort in, right? All year long. You have different phases of effort. You have different phases of what you're doing. And then there's moments of the bounty. There's moments of the harvest. And then there is moments of the loss. There is moments of the death. And so I think that the Taurus rising archetype, again, ruled by Venus, the evolution here is to realize that nothing is ever really lost and that change is good. And we don't have to also be obsessed about the body and the way we look and what we have and what we own. Like, not everything needs to be how things look. It needs to be about how you feel. And abundance is an inner state of being. And so if you have this archetype, that is something to really cultivate, to really look at yourself as one with Mother Earth and Mother Nature and that holistic natural cycle of progression, right? And to really create and I think bring to the world that sense of beauty, right? This sense of, again, nature moves slowly, right? It's slow, it's steady. This archetype teaches us we don't need to always be rushing and racing ahead. And we also don't need to constantly focus on what things look like. And that abundance is naturally produced, right? Gratitude is a huge piece of the Taurus risings. The more gratitude you have, and also, again, really taking the cues from Mother Nature, like, she's resilient. She is resilient as fuck. Nothing can shake a Taurus rising. And that is part of their archetype. But again, as we move through the archetypes of the houses, you'll see where the challenges are for this archetype. So of course, Taurus rising, ruling the first house, this is the appearance. You are going to come off as a very sturdy, stable. Often Taurus risings have a beauty to them. They're strong. There's a real strength there. Again, Taurus is like brute force, right? Your second house of security, income, stability, how you generate resources, how you generate abundance, is ruled by Gemini. So again, you can see the irony here. Gemini is mutable. Gemini is always changing. Okay, so you have to lean into that. You have to lean into the fact that Gemini is about experimentation, trying new things, thinking about things in different ways. Okay, Gemini loves change. So you have to learn how to ebb and flow with the change. Also, interestingly, again, sometimes Taurus risings will come off as the quiet, strong, subtle, beautiful types, right? But actually, the more that you communicate and share and express, the more you're actually being able to generate security and abundance and stability for yourself, because your second house is ruled by Gemini. Again, Tauruses love stability. They don't like a lot of change. But this also indicates that it's good to get out there. It's good to socialize, communicate. It's good to travel. It's good to embrace change. This will help that flow of the second house, right? Your third house of communication is ruled by Cancer. So this is a challenge point, right? Because Cancer is about feeling. Now, what can happen here is that you take emotions as truth and you communicate overly emotionally. That is the Cancerian way, right? And when Cancer is ruling the third house, well, one, I think I always talk about the gifts and the shadows. The gift there is you have a way of being very compassionate, nurturing. People gravitate towards you. They feel comfortable with you. They feel they can open up. They can share. That you're really good at listening, holding space, right? Like, you're very good at being very empathetic, also very intuitive in your communication. You can really read what other people are feeling. You can really sense that. And this is why people feel very safe with you. They gravitate towards you for that reason. But there can also be a level of taking things too personally, like taking what other people say very personally, speaking from an emotionally triggered place, treating your emotions as your truth. And that's something to watch out for, right? Because that will disturb the natural stability and the natural kind of rootedness of the Taurus rising, of the Venus rulership, right? Venus is relationships. It is the energy exchange between people. This is how we form relationships. This is how we bond. Venus is the self-worth, right? Excuse me. What we're worth, what we value in life, what we value in the world, and how we create more of that, how we create stability and abundance, how we create the life we want to live, right? And so that can disrupt it when we have emotional arguments, when we have too much volatile emotions, which can create fractures in the relationships. So it's really to lean into that feeling, that vulnerability, but to learn not to take things too personally, right? Now, the fourth house, and I talked about this with the Aries video, the angular houses really tell you a lot, right? And the fourth house is your sense of belonging. It's your childhood. It's these are where the wounds come in too, right? The childhood wounds, the ancestral wounds. What makes us feel safe? What makes us feel we are nurtured, we are held, we feel like we belong, we feel like we have people that we love, we feel like we have a safety in life, right? And so your fourth house is Leo. And for a lot of Taurus risings, this could be a conundrum, right? Like with Aries, they have Cancer fourth house. Like I said, they have a strong relationship to their ancestry and to their family. And I think that really feeds into that first house Aries of really knowing who they are. Taurus risings, again, you're subtle. You're more subtle and sturdy and that Leo fourth house can be one of two things. That either growing up, maybe everyone around you, whether that was siblings or the family, were all like very loud and very big personalities. And this could have been a little hard to deal with as a Taurus rising and as a Venus archetype, right? Venus does love in Taurus, tranquility. They love tranquility and softness. They love feeling good and relaxed. There could have been a lot of drama growing up. And so this could become a wound where it always feels like when it comes to the home and to the family and to your inner sense of self, you feel like maybe you have to be, Leo can be over the top, right? You have to be over the top and loud and dramatic in order to be seen, or that there's always some type of drama going on in your life, especially in your home front. And that's something to really work on and notice that your Venus archetypal blueprint is that you are the tranquility. You are the stability. You are the master manifester. You don't need to be over the top. You don't need to be the loudest one in the room to be seen. You are seen. But also, if we can use this in the higher, that your home life, your family, the people closest to you, your personal life is filled with a lot of joy. So like, making sure you have creative outlets, making sure you're around people that you feel joyful with, focusing on the optimism of life, right? This is a real strength of Taurus rising. Again, the angular houses, we can talk about all the other types of houses, but the angular houses really feed into this sense of self, right? And I think that your sense of self is this naturally exuberant, warm, joyful, excited being. And that really feeds into the Taurus rising, right? Of this stability, this real sense of like, I am who I am, and I know who I am, and I don't have to prove it. And I don't have to prove it in any way. I just am. It's the quiet I am, whereas Aries is the loud I am, right? Now, fifth house, your house of passion and creativity, your house of love, what excites you in the world, what gets your mojo going is in Virgo. Really interesting, right? So Virgo always will show us, right? No matter what house you have Virgo in or Virgo placements, that is where we need to have some structure. We need to have discipline. Virgo is going to require we do actually take care of the details, okay? You can't gloss over them. You're going to have to do some healing work. You're going to have to focus on your health and wellness. You're going to have to get your routines together. You're going to have to get your shit straight, right? And in the fifth house, interestingly, so that has to do with the sacral chakra, right? And so again, Taurus rising, Venus archetype, you are naturally abundant. You have this natural way of manifesting whatever it is you need through your sense of rooted self-worth. But when it comes to the fifth house, you might have issues with fertility. There might be some healing that needs to go on with the sacral chakra, which is very fifth house related. You might find that you're an over perfectionist with your creative endeavors as well, or there's this sense of you're seeking perfection from yourself and in others. And there can be nitpickiness, there can be criticalness, and you've got to like shake that off, because what the Virgo in the fifth house can do is, one, focus on health and wellness in your body. And this has to do with your levels of joy. Okay. This has to do, and of course, Leo actually rules the fifth house. So you want to really take care of your heart chakra. Okay. You want to open the heart chakra. You want to heal any pain in the heart chakra, betrayal, grief, sadness, traumas. Like Virgo's going to require that you do this daily, this is part of your practice, is to take your creativity seriously, to put the work and the effort into it, and to also take care of your wellness in the sacral area, and also making sure like joy is healing. Joy is healing for you. And again, this is where the Taurus rising archetype comes from. They need to enjoy life. They need to stop and smell the roses. They need to feel like they are enjoying the human experience and all that it has to offer. Again, simple pleasures. Virgo, fifth house, simple pleasures. Okay. But you might have to watch things like overconsumption, over intake, etc. But you actually have the capability to really turn your creative energy, your passions, your hobbies into something that is truly so much in service to others. Like maybe you love cooking and cooking for others. If you love writing, you have this ability to turn this creative energy into really a service that really benefits others, right? Sixth house, your daily routines, your work ethic, your disciplines, your focuses, okay? Libra, again, love this for Taurus risings because you're very ambitious. Libra is a leadership sign. Okay. You do well working with others. You're Venus ruled, of course. You do well working with others. You would do really well with things like aesthetics, feng shui, interior design, fashion, or working in relationships, right? This could be like you love to actually work with your partner. Maybe you guys own a business together or you work on projects together. This can be that part of your daily life. Okay. Sixth house, Libra. Libra is about balance. So everything in your life needs to have a balance to it. There needs to be equal levels of working and rest, equal levels of service to others and service to self, equal levels of relaxation and also, doing the grind. But working with others, key. So if there's like things that you want to work on, things that you want to do, see if there's anybody that can help with it. See if there's anybody that wants to collaborate, work with you. Again, Libra likes balance. Libra likes aesthetics. Libra's the vibes. Libra likes harmony. So your daily life, again, you want to cultivate a sense of balance, harmony, and peace. This is really important. This is what will help your archetype evolve to its highest potential. Seventh house, another angular house. This is where Taurus risings can struggle, right? This is why I said with Aries risings, you'll notice in the celebrity examples they gave in terms of Placidus charts, right? A lot of them have Scorpio moons or some sort of Scorpio energy, which falls in like their seventh or eighth house. This makes for very dramatic relationships, toxic relationships, or an eighth house energy. There's addictions, there's substance abuses, there is them dealing with very traumatic events in life, right? Taurus risings are going to share in this because your seventh house is ruled by Scorpio. Your relationships feel very intense to you, especially romantic relationships, right? There is a sense of life or death. There is a sense of Scorpio is the merging. Like Taurus, like I said, can be a little possessive, like this is mine, right? And especially in relationships, Venus ruled, Venus is relationships. That's Scorpio seventh house. You have to be very careful of over possessiveness of your partners. There can also, like I said, be a lot of intensity in relationships. This can probably in earlier years lead to very toxic relationships, but hey, those are for growth, right? But the beauty of the Scorpio seventh house is, again, the Taurus risings are unshakable. They're loyal. They're steadfast. When they form a relationship with someone, it is for life. Again, this can be a struggle if you have to deal with things like death, loss, divorce, breakups, separations. That can be extremely challenging for Taurus risings. What I want you to remember is, again, you are the master manifestor. You can create anything you want. If you experience those things, that intensity, that death and rebirth energy that does happen in the seventh house, It is for growth. It is to take you into the deep dive of truly exploring your emotions, of truly, again, become one with nature and realize that everything is cyclical. There really is no ending. There really is no beginning. There truly is no loss, and there truly is no death. It's all a cycle. But they do very well with long-term partnerships. They, again, do have that intensity, and you do have to be careful of that. In relationships, whether that be romantic, business partnerships, close friendships, dynamics, clients, things like that, you would also do really well where you're very good at understanding the psychology of others. You have a lot of, again, that comes with like the Cancer third house. You intuitively feel others. You're very good at being there for others in terms of crisis. You're there. People rely on you. You're very loyal, and this can create really strong relationships, really strong partnerships that create that stability in your life. You just have to watch out for the over intensity, right? Eighth house. Eighth house will be ruled by Sagittarius. The eighth house is the psyche. It's the deep stuff. It's the traumas and the triggers and the wounds. So here, Sagittarius is a fire sign, right? You have to be careful of deep-seated belief systems that start to take over. I think Sagittarius can also sometimes there's so much fire energy that there can be reactivity. A lot of reactivity. You might, and you might also crave freedom. And that's the irony here with the Taurus rising, is that wanting of harmony and stability, this just natural grace of like, I am rooted and grounded, and I am so one with like the flow of life. And then that eighth house is like, there's actually this desire to maybe just go wild. There's this desire to actually like break free of all the norms, liberation, bluntness, and all of that is great. Actually, it gives a really kind of interesting layer to the Taurus rising. But what you have to watch out for is, again, eighth house is deep stuff, right? That's why I said with Aries risings, there's a lot to dive into in that eighth house. There can be a lot of addictive tendencies, a lot of just really, really deep, tumultuous emotions that have to be dealt with. Here, like, you're trying to find your voice. You're trying to find your truth and be able to express that clearly. Again, that ninth house has that access with the third house. Okay. So, we just have to be able to find that liberation, find that sense of truth, and being able to speak your truth without reactivity, without going overboard, also without, kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, which sometimes Sag does. They're just like off to the next thing, right? And this kind of bleeds in a little bit. Okay, where am I? So Taurus first house, Gemini second, Cancer third, Leo fourth, Virgo fifth, Libra sixth, Scorpio seventh, Sag eighth, ninth house, Capricorn. So you guys are actually very good at really building and focusing and putting a lot of intent work into higher knowledge and what you want to learn. Like, there's a focus and dedication there in the ninth house. You also might be super traditional in many ways. Like, you have very traditional desires. You kind of want to live a traditional life. At the same time, like, you believe in hard work. You believe in integrity. You believe in ethics. And that's very important for you. And again, that Capricorn energy, like, loves dedication, right? So anything that you truly wanted to learn, expand upon, you can do it. These are people that can build a kind of global business. They can be globally well known and very successful because they're putting in the time and their effort, right? And they believe in hard work. They believe in that traditional sense of like, I'm going to put the time in. I don't want to take any shortcuts. And this kind of moves into the 10th house, the last angular house here of Aquarius. You are humanitarian at heart. And I think you all might find that what you end up accomplishing in life, your sense of purpose and mission and what you really set out to kind of build in the 10th house is for society. It's to break societal norms. It's to care about humanity. It's to be seen as someone who is trying to progress society forward. Maybe you're very quirky, you're innovative, you're outside the box. You are seen as some sort of, trailblazer, some sort of rebel, someone who shakes things up, right? And people can love you or hate you for that. And the 11th house, your sense of community, right? What you bring to the collective consciousness, how you work with others, your sense of tribe, right? And that is going to be Pisces. So you might be very drawn actually to like spiritual topics, spiritual things. You might really actually can help other people through some type of modality that is spiritual, right? You're a healer. You also have this endless empathy for the world. You feel the suffering of humanity very deeply. You might very much care about mental health and, helping people who are struggling. Again, kind of with that Aquarius 10th house, there's a sense of humanitarianism there. You can also be seen as an enigma, like people aren't really sure about you. There's a mystery there. And then the 12th house, Aries, okay? With every rising sign, you have to look at the 12th house for what you cannot see about yourself. So this is why when I gave the examples, of like some of the Aries rising examples, like Shaq, for instance, Shaquille O'Neal, he had a stellium in the 12th house, Aries and Pisces. And so there's a lot we don't know about him, right? He has this kind of Piscean nature. He's like a chameleon, like just fitting into all these roles where we're like, I thought he was just a basketball player, right? This is what people can't necessarily figure out about you. This is also things that you cannot see about yourself. But the 12th house energy is typically strong. Okay, so other people might not be able to figure it out about you, but they have this sense, there's something subconscious being put out into the world, okay? So sometimes when we're trying to figure out in our archetype, right, how to evolve the archetype, of course, we're going to look directly at the ruling planet, the degree, the house, all that jazz. And then you want to look at the 12th house because this is what you are subconsciously putting out into the world, right? Like Aries risings, they're subconsciously putting out Piscean energy into the world, okay? Pisces is like very dreamy, very ethereal. Like Pisces is a chameleon. People are fascinated by Pisces. There's a magnetism there. There's a mystique, a chameleon-esque. With all the Aries risings examples, I think we really picked up that Pisces energies from them. Like I gave the example with Shaq. James Dean, right? He's an enigma. He's a mystique. He came on the scene and was boom, like made a huge impact, died, right? So but people are still to this day very enthralled and kind of, drawn to like the story of James Dean. John Lennon, right? Pisces rules music as well. Of course, he was a musician. He was kind of this ethereal person. He was a big peace activist. Like he was a lover. He really sang about and empathized with the suffering of the world, right? So there's these examples. With a Taurus rising, your 12th house being Aries, there is a deep-seated aggression here. And so I think in order to evolve your archetype, when we can kind of integrate the 12th house, that's when the archetype evolves, right? So for instance, Aries rising, we've got the Mars, right? I said they can be too much, too fast, too aggressive, too over the top. Everything is just too much, okay? If they can integrate that 12th house Pisces, which is about going within, being reflective, really following intuition, timing, really feeling into others as well, right? Like feeling the sense of what's happening around them. They can really develop this divine intuitive sense that really fuels their action rather than it just being this kind of blind, impulsive recklessness actions. Same thing, Taurus risings. If you can really dive into and heal your anger, your rage, your volatility, you will then elevate that Venus archetype, right, into a place of being the lover and not the fighter. Being the tranquil, rooted, grounded, stable person who can also be very strong. Like there's no way around it. This isn't about weakness. But if that 12th house goes unhealed, if that 12th house goes unintegrated, same as Aries rising, right? Pisces also rules addictions. If it's not integrated, then the archetypal blueprint typically will stay in the shadows. Your desire in life to be this tranquil, grounded, consistent being who can create magic in the world, who is the master manifestor, who is in many ways a healer, who is a lover of the world, who has a lot to give, that 12th house will completely disrupt that. You will be in constant conflict. You will be in constant drama. You will have a lot of aggression and violence and different things enter your life, which again disrupts your natural blueprint. So this goes, this is for all the rising signs, and obviously we're going to go through each of them. But the 12th house is so key for integration. So you should also look at what planets you have in your 12th house, because that's important. Like I have 2 planets in my 12th. It's a fucking lifelong thing to understand them, integrate them. Okay, it's a lot. But let's go through some of the examples here of what I feel the evolving archetype of Taurus really is, right? Where I think I want to exit this whole thing that Taurus is lazy, that they're the hedonists, that, they are greedy, possessive. Like, let's evolve from that archetype, right? Taurus is nature. Nature can create whatever the hell she wants to create. Nature's on her own time, okay? But she's always right on time. She knows who she is. She is comfortable in her body. Well, not since we've been on it, but, that's a totally different tangent. She moves. She is beauty. She is grace. She is abundance. Like, that is Taurus, okay? So one of the first examples that really stood out to me was Mae West. And she was one of the early Hollywood stars, up there with Marilyn Monroe. And of course, she was seen as the archetype of the beauty, right? So of course, Taurus is beauty. And I think we need to exit the world of looking at beauty from, I don't know, this weird perfectionist standard, right? Virgo 5th house, we have to exit that. Nature, if we were to actually treat nature and evaluate nature in its beauty in the same way that we are doing to human beings, nature would be ugly. Truthfully, right? It's not perfect. Everything is not symmetrically perfect. Everything, and then we try to do to Mother Earth what we are trying to do to our own bodies. Synthetically create an aesthetic because we simply cannot accept natural beauty. We just can't, right? We're creating fake astroturf instead of having grass, right? We're using all the synthetic fertilizers and chemicals to make everything grow at a rate it's not supposed to grow. We're using antibiotics and preservatives and all types of otherness into animals to make them bigger so we can sell more food, so we can plump them up, right? We have lost the ability, truly, I think, to appreciate natural beauty and to appreciate natural timing. And that is what I think Taurus risings are going to bring back to the world. Okay. So Mae West, she was a 27 degree Taurus ascendant. and 27 degrees is a Gemini degree, right? And so she was known for her like very frank humor. She was witty, she was blunt, she kind of really shook up the norms at that time from like, again, women who like weren't supposed to say those things. Sagittarius 8th house, honey. Like, they have a sense of humor that is very much hidden. Okay, and that is something about the Sag 8th house that I wanted to mention as well. Besides this, you know, you have to deal with this kind of internal longing to have freedom and break free, which can, again, sometimes disrupt this need for consistency and security. But like, bring out the Sag humor, please. Like, another one I didn't write down, but was Gene Wilder. I mean, come on. Like, so funny, so humorous, really gets the joke of life, right? This is all just one big experience. Like, we need to stop taking everything so seriously. That is Taurus rising. Okay, so she was a 27 degree Gemini degree of Taurus rising. Her Venus was at 24 degrees of Virgo, 5th house. Okay, 24 degrees is a Pisces degree. Again, she was enigmatic. Everyone was like, you know, she was like this ethereal dream woman. Okay, she was seen as a sex symbol. People were mystified by her. At the same time, Venus and Virgo, I have this placement. Perfectionism. Yes. A deep need for perfectionism, and in her 5th house, which is the house of fame. It's the house of your creative passions, your hobbies, your self-expression. She perfected her craft. She was actually very well recognized for her roles and for her work in films. So there we go. Now, she also had Mars and Virgo in the 5th house, so that really bolstered that. She also had Chiron and Virgo in the 5th house. So there was probably a deep insecurity there, a deep need to constantly be perfecting and making things better and improving. And maybe she was really hard on herself. You know, we don't know those things, but she really gives me the archetype here of beauty, brains. She's smart. She was witty. She broke the social norms. Again, Aquarius 10th house. And she perfected her craft. Okay, so that's another thing for you Taurus risings. You can perfect your craft and be the fucking best at what you do. Okay, Virgo 5th house. The next one was Steve Forbes. This one I found very interesting because this is giving me the archetype of the Taurus rising that has to do with business, money, resources, right? He was a 23 degree Taurus ascendant. That is an Aquarius degree. Okay, so with Aquarius, again, we get philanthropy. We get things that are very widespread. We get things that are very much seen by the collective, right? And are could be information that is highly circulated. It could be things that progress humanity as a whole. Okay, so he had his Venus in Cancer at 11 degrees in the 3rd house. 11 degrees is also an Aquarius degree, okay? Venus in Cancer. He probably was a very sensitive individual. He had a Cancer stellium. Okay, Taurus rules resources, right? Cancer is money. Taurus is resources. Cancer is money. Now, Scorpio plays into this too, and that's a story for another day, probably when we get to Scorpio risings. Scorpio also has a lot to do with money. All the water signs do. Taurus is about physically creating abundance, or creating things, I should say, that hold value. Cancer is the flow of money. Cancer is the mother archetype. Now, again, I won't go off on a tangent, but back in the day, you know, for tens of thousands of years, before we had patriarchy, we had matriarchy, okay? And all resources, assets, titles, real estate passed through the mother line. Common sense tells us because they didn't have paternity tests, okay? But you knew who the mother was. It passed through the matriarchal line. So that is why Cancer rules money. That is why I believe Cancer rules inheritance. Again, modern astrology, we're always looking at the 8th house, Scorpio, in terms of inheriting things, which can be true, right? Death leads to inheritance. The 8th house can also be debt that you inherit. So the 8th house is sometimes like the shit you inherit that you don't actually want. But I believe Cancer in the 4th house is like what you are inheriting from specifically your mother line. And how like wealth is passed down, right? So Venus in Cancer here, 11 degrees, Aquarius, 3rd house, okay? He inherited Forbes magazine or Forbes Inc. or whatever, it's also a company. But he inherited all of this from his father, who inherited it from his grandfather. He inherited generational wealth, okay? He inherited this company. Company is physical, so to speak. Taurus. Cancer is the wealth aspect. He inherited all of this. 3rd house rules publishing, broadcasting, media. What did he inherit? A media company. Forbes magazine, right? 11 degrees, Aquarius degree, widely spread. Everyone knows Forbes magazine. It is a widely seen, widely known magazine, right? Now, he also has his sun in Cancer in the 3rd house. He also has his Mercury in Cancer in the 3rd house. He also has his moon in Cancer in the 3rd house. Okay, so he has a bold Cancer stellium that many of these planets are conjunct his Venus in the 3rd house. So again, this indicates to me he inherited generational wealth, 3rd house, publishing. Okay, he was also did a lot of philanthropy work in his lifetime. Again, that comes from his 23-degree Taurus ascendant, Aquarius degree, Venus at 11 degrees, Aquarius degree, okay? So he's done a lot of philanthropy, social programs. Like, listen, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, all these people are great people. I'm not, right? It's just the astrology, okay? Whether or not these people are good people, that is a total question for another day. But the astrology always tells us like what they're doing in their life. So whether the philanthropy was like actually real and good intentioned, that's a story for a different day. But he did do a lot of philanthropy. He did advocate for a lot of social programs. He, was a big advocate for like unions and taxpayer unions and things like that. He also founded the magazine Business Today. Again, Taurus resources, Cancer wealth, 3rd house publishing and media. It all makes sense, right? He was also appointed to the board of international broadcasting. Again, all makes sense. Remember I said, so yes, he has all this Cancer in the 3rd house. This is an example of how to use Cancer in the 3rd house, right? Use your intuition. Use your care for other people, right? Again, whether this was well-intentioned or not, it's not my point. Use your empathy, your compassion, your care for others. Aquarius 10th house. Use that in how you express yourself, writing, speaking, media. You guys would do great in like podcasting, videos. Again, you could do something like this, like founding some sort of publishing, getting into broadcasting. Your 2nd house of income is ruled by Gemini. Okay. Now, this can also create the wealth, can create, especially if there's a family vibe to it. So again, kind of comes in with Libra 6th house energy, working with others, kind of forming some kind of community, partnerships, family-oriented businesses. That would really do well for you. The next example that I have is Conor McGregor. I thought this was a great shadow example for us all to see, right? He is an example of the brute force of the Taurus rising archetype, okay? Like I said, I think the evolved archetype here is its beauty, its grace, its abundance. It's building things that are sustainable, that are philanthropic, that really helping to build new earth, okay? Just like Aries risings are now the peaceful warriors. They are the lovers, right? Anything they do, they can do it great, and they can dabble in all the things that they want to do. They're inspiring. Taurus risings, you are here to help us build new earth, and you can do it well. This is an example of a shadow Taurus rising. Okay, Conor McGregor, 22 degrees Taurus ascendant, that is the kill or be killed degree. What is he known for? MMA fighting. Taurus, the body, brute force, 22 degrees, kill or be killed. He enjoys that style of combat. He enjoys getting beat up and beating other people. Just the astrology. Okay, that is how it played out. Now his Venus, his ruling planet, is at 15 degrees Gemini, first house. 15 degrees is a Gemini degree. First house, his sense of self. What is he also known for? Talking a lot of shit, saying a lot of things he shouldn't be saying, getting himself into trouble, being a little bit, I guess, off-putting in many ways. I think that's a shadow, we can say, of Sagittarius in the 8th house, right? He's blunt, he's arrogant, he's not very aware of himself. And this is why it comes through as the shadow. Scorpio 7th house. Now listen, I'm just saying, okay, that Scorpio 7th house would do excellently with marriage and long-term partnerships. They mate for life. They are loyal. They love whoever they love them forever. Okay? He's with his partner for like 15 years, couldn't marry her, cheated on her every other day. Shadow Scorpio 7th house. Shadow Scorpio 7th house. It's just, it's hard to watch, right? Because you look at people's charts and you're like, oh, they have so much potential. Oh, this could be so good. And you just watch them do everything the opposite of like what they could be doing that would really embody their chart. And then you just watch them play out every single shadow in their chart, and it's just painful. This is really the kicker. Mars at 0 degrees Aries, 12th house. Yeah. So that inner rage and aggression and arrogance and violence in the 12th house, it's so subconscious. He has to play it out constantly because he hasn't healed it, because he hasn't integrated it. That's a good example right now. Interestingly, we'll see what happens with him as a side note, since the Saturn-Neptune conjunction happened right on his Mars. Very interesting. So we'll keep a lookout for what goes on with him. My last example of a beautiful example, Amelia Earhart. A woman who made strides and made breakthroughs in a physical sense, right? She was a pilot. She broke world records, right? She was the first to fly, I guess it was across, whatever it was, the Atlantic, I think. Sorry. Rumor has it she might have gone into the Bermuda Triangle and went into inner Earth. I don't know. That would be very Taurus rising of her. She just returned right to the inner Earth. Anyway, she made huge breakthroughs. She was a rebel with a cause. She was an innovator, and she was a little bit of a daredevil. That's a great way to use that Aries 12th house in an integrated fashion. Okay? She was a risk taker. She was fearless, and her ascendant, 3 degrees Taurus, Gemini degree. Gemini rules travel. Okay? Gemini rules local travel. I would say at, things like trains and cars and all that kind of jazz. But nonetheless, Gemini is travel, right? And if her 8th house was ruled by Sagittarius, she really broke molds and she really dove into the unknown in terms of cross Atlantic travel. Because I would say aviation would be more Sagittarius / Aquarius energy. If Aquarius rules her 10th house, what was she most known for? Her being a pilot, for her breaking these records, right? Her Venus, 17 degrees Gemini. Also, right? So 17 degrees is going to be a Leo degree. Okay, so she was very famous for what she did with planes, her piloting, her breaking records. Second house, she has a stellium in the second house. This was her income. This was her job. This was her role. This was, what she invested her time and energy into every single day. Venus, 17 degrees Gemini. She is most known for breaking the mold, doing something revolutionary with aviation. She also had her moon in Gemini in the second house, okay? Conjunct her Venus. She loved this experimentation. Neptune, 21 degrees Gemini, second house, conjunct the Venus. There was a mystique here. She was truly like trying to figure something out. And probably she did figure something out that we will never know. Pluto at 14 degrees Gemini, conjunct the Venus. Pluto in Gemini, revolutionizing travel. Revolutionizing information we have access to and what we know, right? This is what she did. So these are just some examples of Taurus risings, my beauties, little Mother Earths. So that is just some guidance for Taurus risings and your archetype. And again, if any of you are interested in diving into your core archetypes, I do have an archetypal reading up on the website. And if you want to look at new archetypes coming in for yourself, we're going to look at the progressed chart, which is also up on the site. So love you guys, and I'll be back with Gemini rising soon.